Hi again, everyone. Good morning to the London headquarters. I wish I could be there in person. And I'm going to talk about a project that I completed just over a year ago called Mare Incognito, and which I think links quite beautifully to the presentation that we just heard about dreams and these unconscious states. Oops, I seem not to be able to move the slides forward. Okay, sorry about that. So first of all, I would like to briefly introduce myself as an artist. I'm currently artist in residence at the Green Bank Telescope, which is the largest steerable radio telescope in the world. And it's located in West Virginia. And I'm also artist in residence at the SETI Institute, which is the Institute for the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. I started working with radio technologies about 15 years ago here at the Dwingeloo Radio Telescope, where I also became a radio telescope operator and a licensed radio operator. So I learned to use also the technologies that I use in my project. Sorry about this. I'm having problems scrolling through the slides, so I have to do this manually. I hope it goes. I don't jump over too many slides. So Mare Incognito is a performance and film during which I sent into space the brain activity of deep sleep. And this performance was also filmed by Miriam Sommers and Bas Chervinsky, two Dutch filmmakers. The project was in collaboration with neuroscientists, filmmakers, and also radio astronomers and cosmologists from various institutions, including the University of Cambridge, Donder Center for Cognitive Neuroimaging, Max Planck Institute for Astrophysics, Square Kilometre Array, Cavendish Astrophysics, University of Cambridge, Muller, the Radio Astronomy Observatory, and the Young Academy. I'm just going to show this short trailer, which I believe is also part of the show reel in the exhibition. I hope it works.
Mare Incognito is the unknown ocean, so it's the ocean of the mind and the ocean of the cosmos. It's a project where we transmit into space the brain waves of deep sleep. I always found the moment of falling asleep quite scary in a way, because it is a moment when we lose the perception of ourselves, the biographical self. We enter a space and a time that are boundless, and our thought process starts somehow breaking apart, and thoughts start becoming contaminated with each other and eventually fade away into emptiness.
If you look at how you're fully awake and thinking of particular things, whatever is happening in your head, to this hypnagogic state where things will pop in your mind and you don't really control the narrative, up to the moment that you actually lose the narrative completely and then you fall into light sleep and further down. I think there's a massive change consciously for you, hence at the human experience level. There's a massive change in the brain. So if we're going to send something to space, it might as well be the biggest change we can create in the brain and in the human experience. We send in direct reflection of human consciousness and thought. We send in whatever was in Daniela de Paulis, brain happening that night.
Okay. The idea of sending brain activity into space has been also presented in science fiction works, including Solaris, the renowned film by Andrei Tarkovsky, and the novel Solaris by Polish writer Stanislaw Lem. And this is not the first project where I send brainwaves into space. In 2018, I also performed another event called Cogito in Space, which was designed to take place inside the cabin of the Dwingelo radio telescope in the Netherlands. And in this project, participants were able to send their brain activity into space while watching a film in virtual reality showing footage of the Earth seen from space. Going back to Mare Incognito, the settings for this project was completely different. The performance was at night, outdoor. Also, the antenna we used was not this 25-meter dish. It was a cluster of small antennas, which are the prototypes of the square kilometer array, which is the largest radio telescope currently being built across Australia and South Africa. And this particular cluster is at the Muller, the Radio Astronomy Observatory near the University of Cambridge. Also, the performance, as you saw in the film, was at night, and here is a close-up of these metallic antennas that look just like trees, and they can be connected with each other to create this large area of observing antennas. So they can be extended in as large surfaces as scientists require. So it is quite an innovative design. The performance was, as I mentioned, that night. It was the 29th of March. It was still very cold, so it was challenging to fall asleep. And here you see some of the scientists working in the project, and they prepared, they were fitting my head with this lab-grade electroencephalogram device. Eventually, after a while, I felt asleep, and this whole performance was recorded on film. The film has been edited to 17 minutes, which I unfortunately don't have the time to present here. But during the film, you can see the transition of the brain activity from waking stage to deep sleep. And this is exactly the stage that we want to record in the project. Why am I so interested in this particular moment of the sleeping cycle, especially the moment of falling asleep and deep sleep? It's because, as I mentioned in the film, that this is a moment when we lose our biographical self. So it's a very interesting moment of our daily life, probably the only time when we really don't know who we are anymore. So the thought process starts breaking apart, and also the perception of the body changes. So we are used to perceive our body within these Cartesian coordinates. And suddenly the boundaries of the body starts fading away. And so we experience something quite extraordinary. And also from the neuroscience perspective, this is the moment which is closest to the moment of dying. So deep sleep especially presents a type of brain activity which is very close to that shown by people who are about to die. So it is, poetically speaking, this moment is a form of daily death and also renewal. The other transitional states of consciousness being the moment of waking up. So when we wake up, there is a reverse situation where for a fraction of seconds, sometimes we don't know where we are. We don't know where we are. We have no concept of time and space. And So there is just a sense of being alive, and we don't even recall our identity sometimes. So there are somehow two very unique moments, which are also called minimal self, the state of consciousness of minimal self. So I think there is a lot of potential for poetic and exploration. And also from the neuroscience perspective, these are really very interesting stages of the sleep cycle, because there is very little known about these two particular events. The making of the film was inspired in terms of poetic language by, especially by La Jetée, the film essay by Chris Marker. And especially this scene was quite inspiring. As you saw in the trailer, we tried to recreate these kind of film settings where giving this feeling of a scientific experiment, which is somehow almost underground / illegal, if you like, but somehow using science to explore more the soul, rather than producing quantifiable information and data. Also, during the research stage, I was especially inspired by this collection of writing by Francisco Varela, who was a neuroscientist who dedicated his work to exploring the parallels between Western neuroscience and Eastern philosophy. And this book, Sleeping, Dreaming, and Dying, was really very resourceful for the research stage. And the Tibetan Book of the Dead also had many evocative suggestions. It's a book that it is read to people who are in the process of dying, to accompany them from the biographical self, waking life, to the moment of falling asleep for forever. So it was really poetically very instrumental in the making of the film and the project in general. And a few last words about the location, the Muller, the Radio Astronomy Observatory. I think we were extremely lucky to be able to use this facility because it has really a dreamy atmosphere. It is a museum as much as a state-of-the-art facility. So the state-of-the-art radio telescopes are sitting next to these older antennas that are not used anymore. They're rotting away, rusted, with the cabins full of dust and memories. And in general, there is a feeling that people suddenly left these radio telescopes all of a sudden, as if there was a nuclear fallout or some kind of disaster. So you still see ordinary objects laying around, like cigarettes, bats, or matches, just laying around as if somebody completely forgot them after running away. The project was also awarded the Art of Neuroscience Prize in 2022. And I just published a paper with, as part of this volume, the Routledge Handbook of Social Studies of Outer Space. Together, the paper was written together with Thomas Moynihan, who is the intellectual historian who has been bringing a lot of interesting input in the project, as well as Leandro Ecerro, one of the neuroscientists from the University of Cambridge, and Fabian Schmidt, who is the cosmologist based at the Max Planck Institute. Thank you. And if you want to read more about the team and more details about the project, these are the two websites.